Here's a number that stopped me in my tracks: 15,400 litres. That's the amount of water needed to produce a single kilogram of beef. Not a whole cow, just 1 kilo. Meanwhile, the same mass of wheat requires about 1,800 litres. Vegetables, 300. We're talking about a resource disparity of 30 to 50 times. And in a world facing water scarcity, that's not just inefficient, it's unsustainable. I'm Dr. Ferghal Armstrong, and today on MedHeads we're examining the true cost of our protein choices and what a protein transition might actually look like. Let's start with the land. Livestock production occupies over 77% of global agricultural land. 3/4 of all farmland, for an industry that provides just 18% of global calories and 37% of protein. The efficiency problem compounds when you look at feed conversion. Producing 1 kilogram of beef requires roughly 8 times more feed than producing the same amount of pig meat. That feed has to be grown somewhere on land that could be growing food for direct human consumption. A PNAS study published in March 2025 confirmed what environmental scientists have warned about for years. Beef is 3 to 40 times more resource intensive per gram of protein than most plant and animal alternatives. Whether it's grass-fed or industrial, the fundamental inefficiency remains. The water story is perhaps even more striking. Water footprint calculations include 3 components. Green water, that's rainfall absorbed by plants. Blue water, irrigation drawn from rivers and aquifers. And grey water, the volume needed to dilute pollutants. When you add them up, beef's global average sits at approximately 15,400 litres per kilogram. Wheat comes in around 1,800. General vegetables hover between 300 and 500. The water footprint per calorie for beef is 20 times larger than for cereals and starchy roots. And here's what matters for human nutrition. Per gram of protein, beef requires 6 times more water than pulses like lentils and chickpeas. The Good Food Institute reports that plant-based alternatives can reduce water use by up to 99% compared to conventional beef. That's not a marginal improvement, it's transformation. The good news is that we've already demonstrated the capacity for change. UK consumption patterns have shifted dramatically since 1961, moving away from beef and lamb towards poultry. That shift happened through market forces, price signals, and changing preferences. Now we're seeing the early stages of something more dramatic, the protein transition toward plant-based and cultivated alternatives. The National Food Strategy modelled an intriguing scenario. If the UK reduced meat consumption by just 30%, combined with halving food waste and increasing crop yields by 15%, we could feed the nation using 1/3 less land globally. That's land that could be rewilded, reforested, or converted to sustainable agriculture. The alternative protein industry raised $1.1 billion in investment in 2024, bringing total investment since 2016 to over $19 billion. Singapore, Israel, the Netherlands, and Canada are leading this innovation race. The market is projected to grow from $21 billion in 2025 to over $80 billion by 2035. So where does this leave us as individuals? First, understand that small shifts matter at scale. You don't need to become a vegetarian overnight. Even replacing 2 or 3 beef meals per week with legumes, poultry, or plant-based alternatives makes a measurable difference. Second, think about protein quality, not just quantity. Pulses, nuts, and whole grains provide excellent protein with a fraction of the environmental footprint. Third, pay attention to innovation. The alternative proteins of 2025 are dramatically better than those of 5 years ago, and they're getting more affordable. Finally, recognize that this isn't just about individual guilt, it's about system change. The UK's National Food Strategy recommended £1 billion in government investment to support this transition. That's the scale of the thinking required. 15,000 litres for a kilo of beef, 300 for vegetables. These numbers tell a story about resource allocation that we can no longer afford to ignore. The protein transition isn't about deprivation. It's about efficiency, sustainability, and ultimately feeding more people with less environmental damage. The technology exists, the market is growing. The question is whether we'll move fast enough. Thanks for joining me on MedHeads. I'm Dr. Ferghal Armstrong, and until next time, choose wisely and eat well.